Will the House come to order? Mr. Clerk?
Aloha and good afternoon. Today's invocation will be delivered by Representative Daniel Holt. Will the members who wish to participate please rise?
Please be seated. Totally forgot I was supposed to do this today, but in the 130th anniversary of the illegal overthrow, just like to leave you with some words from Queen Liliuokalani, who famously said, quote, "Never cease to act because you fear you may fail." Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Holt. Item 1, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Ayu, Mr. Alcos, Ms. Amato, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Chun, Ms. Cochran, Mr. Ganadin, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Garrett, Mr. Gates, Mr. Hashem,
Excuse.
Mr. Hashimoto, Mr. Holt, Ms. Hussey Burdick, Ms. Ichiyama, Ms. Kahaloa, Ms. Capella, Mr. Kila, Ms. Kitagawa, Mr. Kobayashi, Mr. Kong, Ms. Lamosao, Ms. Lowen, Ms. Martin, Ms. Martinez, Mr. Matayoshi, Ms. Matsumoto, Mr. Mizuno, Ms. Morikawa, Ms. Nakamura, Mr. Nakashima, Mr. Nishimoto, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Peruso, Mr. Pirik, Ms. Poepoe, Mr. Quinlan, Mr. Saiki, Mr. Sayama, Ms. Souza, Mr. Takayama, Ms. Takenouchi, Mr. Tam, Mr. Tarnas, Mr. Todd, Mr. Ward, Mr. Woodson, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Speaker.
Present. Mr. Clerk, please mark the presence of Representative Hashem.
Mr. Speaker, 49 members are present, 2 are excused.
Thank you. Item 2, reading of the journal. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, may this matter be deferred.
So ordered. Item 3, Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the Governor?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Item 4, Mr. Clerk, are there any Senate communications?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Members, are there any introductions? Representative Kahaloa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to introduce Brian Miyamoto, Executive Director of Hawaii Farm Bureau. Welcome to your House of Representatives. Thank you for being here.
Representative Martin.
I want to introduce several members of my community that are here today. We have Lucy Kepa, Christine McMillan, Jamie Leong, Alvin Park, Sean McKinney, Keiki Kaeo, Raymond Almany, and Roxanne Lono, and Cliff Tollison. Welcome to your House of Representatives, and may you stand to be recognized, please.
Representative Hussey Burdick.
Mr. Speaker, in the gallery with us today, we have several members of the Hawaii home birth community. If everyone could please stand when I say your name, and if members, you could please hold your applause until the end. First, we have certified professional midwife Ezene Dawson, who is currently ineligible for licensure because our licensure law is so restrictive. We also have traditionally trained midwife Jamie Lewis with her newborn daughter Coral Estelle. We have, of course, the notable Auntie Laulani Teal, Native Hawaiian advocate and activist. And we have Christy Duarte, the chair of the Home Birth Task Force that was commissioned by 2019 Act 32 to study our midwifery licensure laws and make recommendations to the legislature. And finally, we have her 12-year-old daughter, Sovereign Duarte, who's been testifying on midwifery bills at the legislature since she was 8 years old. She herself aspires to be a traditionally trained midwife when she grows up and represents all the keiki who will want the choice to have a traditional midwife or different culturally appropriate care. We nicknamed HB 955 Sovereign's Law in her honor, and it'll be on the OD tomorrow. So now everyone can put a face to the names of the people that this bill will impact. Ladies, welcome to your House of Representatives.
Representative Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery, we have with us folks supporting our awardee of our certificate presentation today, Auntie Twinkle and Auntie Blanche. But from my community of District 45, we have in the audience Ohana from Pu'uhonua o Waianae. If you can stand to be recognized by your House of Representatives. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Speaker, may I have their names inserted into the journal?
So ordered.
Thank you.
Members, are there any further introductions?
Speaker.
Representative Ward.
Speaker, as is conventional, when people visit the Capitol, they're usually in elementary school, and then if they're really late, they're in high school. We have 2 guests out of 3 that I'm going to introduce who've never been to the Capitol, and I'm going to introduce them as follows. They are Cliff Kimura, Cliff, please stand, and Larry Murakami for the first time, and by their very illustrious guide, Lori Yasui. Lori, continue to give them the information. They can come back anytime to the People's House. Welcome, gentlemen. It's a bit late, but it's better now than ever. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with no further introductions, we'll move on to item 5, floor presentations. Mr. Clerk, are there any floor presentations?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have one floor presentation today. House Resolution number 14, commending the unsung heroes of Hawaii's homeless. This resolution is offered by Representative Ward.
Representative Ward.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Representative Gates.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. Any discussion, Representative Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in super strong support. I know there's not such a thing as that, but that's the way I feel in my heart. And I want to thank the Speaker and the leadership by saying, hey, we're back to doing floor presentation. It's no longer COVID. We don't have plexiglass between us, and we have 2 great people to honor from our community. It's been a 2-year hiatus, Mr. Speaker, and these are the 2 unsung heroes of the homeless population. It was mentioned earlier from the good representative from Waianae that it's Auntie Blanche and it's Twinkles. Those 2 have probably done more for the homeless than many of the programs in terms of saving lives and saving a lot of money for the state of Hawaii because of what they've done. This means that what they have done is not a government program federally or state or even community municipal. It's out of the compassion that they have from their experience and for their desire to help people who, in many cases, are not able to do it on their own. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a great honor to be able to introduce both these 2 unsung heroes of the homeless, Twinkles and Auntie Blanche. Please rise to be recognized. Mr. Speaker, I would now yield to Representative Gates, who will give more details on all the great things that Twinkles has done.
Thank you, Representative Ward. Representative Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have the honor of recognizing Auntie Blanche and Auntie Twinkle. They are foundations of our communities, especially our Native Hawaiian community. They have a lifelong commitment to providing refuge and a sense of purpose for individuals facing houselessness across our state. They've created meaningful connections and in turn have created villages in places of instability. I would like to say a few words specifically about Auntie Twinkle and Pu'uhonua o Waianae. Their mission is to provide a safe space governed with strict rules for our houseless families in Hawaii. But in those rules is love, Mr. Speaker. I think that one of the greatest qualities that Auntie Twinkle has provided these villages is that sense of support, but also showing them that there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. And she's always encouraged them to look for the silver lining in all of the darkness that they endure as they face houselessness on our streets. She's really a voice for those who have felt defeated and worn down. She's dedicated her time and effort to help others out of the goodness of her heart. She really gave hope to the hopeless and is an idol for many of folks across our state, including some of our representatives here. But for my community of Waianae, she has served as a resource, Mr. Speaker, for not just our houseless, but for all of our community, whether it's community cleanups, whether it's food donations for the entire community, whether it's organizing our community around issues. She has been there and she has done that. And on behalf of the District 45 constituents and myself, we would like to say mahalo for your work throughout our community of Waianae as well as our state of Hawaii. So members, if we can all congratulate both Auntie Twinkle and Auntie Blanche on being recognized by your Hawaii House of Representatives. We wish you nothing but success in everything you do. Mahalo, Mr. Speaker. And I will yield. Oh, go ahead. Mr. Speaker, I will now yield my time to the representative from District 51.
Thank you.
Representative Martin, go ahead, proceed.
Thank you very much. I would like to add a little bit more color about Auntie Blanche, who is from Waimanalo, which I represent. And I just want to say that nobody becomes a hero like this, doing the amazing work that she has done over the last few years with the homeless without decades of practice. She has been practicing for many decades, spreading love and aloha. She was a foster caregiver, an adoptive mother, helped the homeless in different ways for many years in the community. Only during COVID, after having applied for a lease to do a project on state ag land adjacent to her home, when she saw the need, she did bring people there to live and started a community. And that community, I have to say, is so different and so much better than all of our other efforts, our city and state and federal efforts to help the homeless, because it does bring so much more of a personal touch. When people go there, they are part of a community. They have dignity, respect, a role to play. They become farmers or whatever other activities that they get involved in. They are giving back to their own community, cooking, security, different issues. And I just say that when we have someone like that, that brings that special pixie dust to our efforts to help our houseless population, we need to embrace them, and our state needs to support them in every way we can, and to just appreciate and thank them. So I thank both of you for what you have done, for filling in the things that we can't do as a state. Some things money can't buy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Ward.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, you two are an inspiration. You're a blessing to the community. Keep up the good work, and let's give them another round of applause. A standing round of applause, if you will.
Members, all those in favor, say aye. The motion is carried. Representative Ward, please proceed with the certificate and lay presentation. Representative Ward to the chair. The chair will call a recess to allow the members of the House to meet and congratulate the honorees. Recess. Will the House come to order? Item 6, reports of standing committees. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee's report numbers 157 through 203 as listed on pages 1 through 13, and that the accompanying House bills, as may be amended, pass second reading and be referred to their designated committees.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussion on STANCOM Report 157? Next page, 158, 159, 160, 161. Next page, 162, 163, 164, 165, 167, 166. Next page, 167, 168, 169. Representative Garcia.
In opposition?
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hawaii has one of the highest tax burdens in the whole country. The census results showed for the first time ever in our state's history, there are more Hawaiians living on the U.S. continent than in Hawaii. That's a problem because we continue to increase taxes and make Hawaii unaffordable. And this here is a tax increase on the capital gains tax. Why are we trying to take away profit from our local residents? For those reasons, a no vote.
Representative Alcos. So ordered. Representative Perrick.
No, please.
So ordered. Representative Matsumoto.
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Ward.
No vote, please.
So ordered. Representative Kong.
No vote. Thank you.
So ordered.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Capella.
in strong support, I just want to make mention that yes, we do have high taxes, but this is a tax that taxes luxury investments. It also taxes things, luxury items that are art or antiquities that our local families can't afford. So why not capitalize on these things and then make sure that we're investing that money in our public schools, in a child tax credit, back into our communities, back into the pockets that need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second time.
Hold on, Representative Garcia. Any other members for the first round? All right, Representative Garcia.
Second time in opposition still.
So ordered.
Our state has record surplus, and yet we continue to raise taxes. The term was used, luxury. Well, flash alert, the average price for a house in Hawaii is over $1 million. It's luxury. So anyway, no vote.
Thank you. Representative Tam.
Mr. Speaker, in support.
So ordered. Go ahead.
Just wanted to make a comment that although we do have a surplus this year, that might not be the case for any future years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members. Representative Kong, your first time. Go ahead.
Second time, still in opposition.
Oh, second time.
For some reason, people trying to equate this as income tax also, right? The capital gains. But the capital gains is applied to all tax brackets, from the lowest to the highest. So not necessarily it's a luxury to anyone when they sell their homes and getting this capital gains. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Capella. Second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And second time, just to clarify as well, if capital gains were to be
In
taxed as,
position.
once again, in very strong support.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you. If capital gains were to be taxed as regular income, there is studies and data that shows that the bottom 80% of taxpayers, this includes even doctors, lawyers, business executives, would be paying absolutely nothing at all. So the only people that are actually impacted, if we were to tax capital gains as regular income, would be people who are making at least $500,000 a year. So when we talk about houses and the ability for local families, for Native Hawaiians to not be able to afford houses, these are people who are benefiting from a living wage, not individuals who are making over $500,000 a year. Those are individuals that need to be taxed at a higher tax rate and at least make sure that they're paying regular income on these luxury investments.
Thank you.
Speaker,
Representative Ward.
brief rebuttal, if I may, in opposition.
Proceed.
I know we don't have a macroeconomic structure in these particular hallowed halls, but capital is what keeps the economy and businesses and employees. It makes the economy move, because if you don't have investment, you don't have any businesses, you don't have any hiring, you don't have any jobs. That's a macro principle regardless of where you apply it. The point is, why the governor had the REITs bill vetoed is because the capital that they want to bring in was saying, hey, you tax us higher, we're not going to come around. The point of making that in this context is, if you don't have capital or you discourage capital, it's going to go where it's welcome. We have no capital markets here. We have to either go to the East Coast or the West Coast in terms of where we are a capital short state. That's the bottom line. So the more we discourage capital, the less economic development. And Mr. Speaker, if there's anything that we need is economic diversification. And if we discourage, for example, becoming the Hollywood of the Pacific or other ways of being innovative and creative, the sports center of the Pacific, the Geneva of the Pacific, where it's going to take capital to make it. If we discourage it by, it's only 2%, okay, but who knows, it's going to go up to another 4 or 5% into the teens, to which then there will be discouragement. The point is, economics is market forces. This is a political force on this floor, but political forces have market consequences, of which, as a capital short place, we should not discourage people, as already the highest taxed in the nation, to come and invest in Hawaii. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. All right, members, moving on from STANCOM Report 169 to STANCOM Report 170. Next page, 171, 172, 173. Representative Capella?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No vote.
So ordered. Moving to STANCOM Report 174. Representative Kong?
Thank you, Speaker. No vote. Thank you.
So ordered. Representative Garcia?
Same request.
So ordered. Moving to STANCOM Report 175. 176. Representative Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition?
So ordered.
This bill is relating to the road usage charge program. It creates a mileage-based road usage charge. So we're going to charge people based upon the miles they drive. This affects those who live furthest from town, West Oahu, North Shore, rural areas, and it gives incentives to move to e-vehicles. Well, I can tell you, lots of folks in my community can't afford a Tesla, and they drive to town each day for work, and this bill will definitely impact them and break their bank, so no vote.
Representative Lowen?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, with reservations, but for different reasons.
So ordered.
I just think we're sending mixed signals about electric vehicle adoption if we're moving to decarbonize the economy. Ground transportation is a huge part of it, and this singles out electric vehicles for extra charges without at the same time repealing the $50 extra charge on EVs that we implemented several years ago. So if we're going to test out the road mileage charge on EVs, fine, but then we should also repeal that $50 extra charge at the same time.
Thank you. Representative Todd?
Thank you. In support.
So ordered.
I just wanted to note that there already is a tax for driving a lot, and it's called the fuel tax. So this does not actually discourage or put a penalty on rural drivers, because that already exists. It's the fuel tax. This has nothing to do with incentivizing EV adoption. All it does is pilot project what would be an opt-in for EV owners who already pay a surcharge, and this is an alternative to the surcharge. And as the prior speaker noted, there may actually be concerns in the opposite direction, that this could potentially disincentivize that adoption, which is why we left it as an opt-in. So just in summary, we already pay a fuel tax, so this has no impact on that. And there is an opt-in program, so there is no direct impact to encourage or discourage EV adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Martin?
Thank you, Speaker. I just, as an EV driver, I want to assure people that in committee, I did make sure this will actually not penalize EV drivers. We currently pay $50, and they will allow us to pay less than $50 if our road usage the formula comes out to less than 50. So this could incur savings for EV drivers, but it's also a chance for them to test the system and get it figured out with a smaller group of drivers, so that when they do transition this, which will still be equitable because those that drive far now are paying more for gas. Those that drive far later will pay more with their mileage, but they just need to test the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Alcos?
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Martin, what was your position?
In support.
Thank you. Representative Ward?
Thank you, Speaker. In opposition, please.
So ordered. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, this bill is caused by a deficit in the fuel tax going to repair the roads, etc. This is an EV-created problem, but we're pushing it on the poor and the ones who live far away as a way of doing it. I know there was a great equalizer from the gentleman from the Big Island, but if you look at it, if you got an old junk that has very little mileage, that burns oil and other things, this is a punishment of the Alice families. Let's call a spade a spade. Because the EVs have not bought the gas, everybody else is having to pay. That's the problem with this bill. This is an EV-created situation. In my sense is, particularly if you want to have capital gains, have those Tesla drivers, have the other ones compensate with not $50, make them pay $150.
Hold on, Representative Ward.
Would the representative
Representative Quinlan, what's your point of order?
Please confine his remarks to the measure at hand.
Sorry, I missed the comment. What did he say?
Just stick to the topic, Representative Ward.
This is an EV-created problem. My point is we should have the EVs pay the difference. They're the ones who have created the deficit in the fuel tax repository. So therefore, make it up to them rather than have everybody having to pay it, particularly if you're poor, you live far away, and you got an old junk that doesn't have any good mileage. It's very simple economics. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Todd.
Thank you. Once again, in support, I just want to note again that this bill does not apply to non-EVs. It's very clear in the language of the bill, and even in the summary of the bill, that it does not apply to anyone else. It is an opt-in program, and one of the things it's trying to address is we're trying to study this as a potential model to replace the fuel tax in the long run, which already penalizes rural drivers. It already penalizes people who may have cars that are not as miles per gallon friendly. So just as a quick example, I have a hybrid. I'm fortunate to have a hybrid. It gets over 50 miles to the gallon. So one of the things we're trying to address in here is that EV drivers would actually pay less currently, or actually pay more currently than I would for a hybrid. So we're trying to find an opt-in model that finds a balance there. As in a quick example, if you were to opt in, you would benefit if you drive about 6,500 miles or less, give or take. And if you drive more than that, you'd be better off paying the existing fee that's already in place, the surcharge. But once again, does not apply to anyone else, and it's an opt-in program. And I think the language in the bill is very clear that that is the case. And I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Representative Lowen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still in support, slight reservations, but I want to adopt the most recent words of the Transportation Chair. And also just comment that the reduction in fuel tax, electric vehicles are still less than 2% of all cars on the road. The reduction in fuel tax revenues has more to do with more efficient vehicles than it does with electric vehicles. And I think it's a good thing, to transition off of fossil fuels, reduce local air pollution, et cetera. So we need to come up with different systems. I do support switching to a vehicle, the road usage charge. I just want to also make sure that we have strong incentives in place for EV adoption. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, members, we are moving to STANCOM Report 177, 178. Next page. 179. Representative Pierrick?
No, please.
So ordered. Representative Kahaloa?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request a ruling on a potential conflict of interest.
State your conflict.
My fiance is a public affairs officer for the Hawaii Tourism Authority.
No conflict. Ruling is in effect until Sendai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, members.
Speaker.
Representative Ward,
Thank you, Speaker. I rise in opposition. Brief comment.
proceed.
Mr. Speaker, when a coach wins a season in football or basketball or any sport, you say, hey, right on, spot on. He goes into a losing season, you say, hey, fire the bugger. This is basically what this bill does to the Hawaii Tourism Authority. We told them in the early 2000s, hey guys, we got to get better. We got half of our economy on you. Get out there and promote. They did Hawaii 5.0, they got everything everywhere, and they got it up to 10 million. And then this body said, hey, control things, manage tourism. This says, throw the baby out with the bath. This says, you guys haven't done diddly squat. It does not acknowledge, in fact, it's an insult, in effect, the way that this bill is coming up. I don't see how you can take and repeal something which has done such a good job, and in this interim, COVID interim, has not been able to control things. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a policy that is reactionary, it's emotional, it doesn't have the substance of what otherwise the executive branch has had heretofore to have 50% of our economy strong, vital, everybody knows Hawaii, everybody loves Hawaii. Now we've got to manage it, we've got to be able to have a green fee, we've got to be able to control our environment by charging people who are using it. So I think we're in the right direction, but this bill is a hook in the road, turning us around in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Quinlan,
In strong support, Mr. Speaker.
proceed.
So I think it's important to go back a little bit in time, back to the 1980s. We were coming out of the plantation days, and we made a conscious decision to save our economy by investing very heavily in tourism. And then sometime later, we created the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and we gave them a mission. And their mission was to market Hawaii to the world and bring in as many visitors as possible. And they were very successful at that mission. The representative from Hawaii Kai, as always, makes a number of very fine points. However, I must disagree with the characterization of this bill as in any way being insulting. This bill is an attempt for Hawaii to keep pace with the times. The resident sentiment has changed. The type of visitor we're getting has changed. We are getting hordes of people day after day pouring into some of our communities with no management and very little messaging. Mr. Speaker, over the years we have done a lot for the visitor in Hawaii. We have done a lot for the visitor industry, and it was appropriate to do so. And now, Mr. Speaker, I think it is appropriate to do something for us, for all of us, for the local residents. Destination management is the key to the future of tourism in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Garcia,
No vote.
so ordered. All right, members. Moving to STANCOM Report 180. 181. Representative Pierik,
No, please.
so ordered. Moving to
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Capella.
on SCR 181,
Go ahead, proceed.
no, please.
So ordered. Representative Hussey Burdick,
Mr. Speaker, thank you. On SCR 181, with reservations, brief comment.
proceed.
I would like to thank the introducer for introducing this important measure and passing it through the first committee. I strongly support the intent of this bill. I was just at a meeting last night where we were shown pretty drastic pictures of people's houses that are falling into the ocean. Some of these people have lived in those houses for generations, and they do not have the wealth or the means to move. And so this fund is exactly what we need to move our state forward and to give these homeowners an out. But I'm worried because I don't see any protections, any income cap. So I'm a little bit worried that without those kinds of things, we might see people with the wealthy attorneys being the first to take advantage of this money. And as we know, our resources are limited, and we really have to prioritize those with low income. So I appreciate that this bill is moving forward, and I hope that the next committee will take those concerns under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Kong,
Thank you, Speaker. I don't think I'm going to go into my sea level rise.
Representative
Oh,
Conley.
in opposition.
Thank you.
Sorry. I don't think I'm going to go into my sea level rise as I did last year. But we really have to address the erosion problem instead of focusing on this thinking that we can, by addressing the sea level rise, that we're going to solve this problem. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Cochran.
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to state with reservations.
So ordered.
An explanation, please. So knowing that this will be being heard through multiple hearings, I'm looking forward to having my issues and concerns addressed through the process. And I appreciate, having another tool in the toolbox for OCCL. And again, just looking forward to the process and having my issues being heard and addressed then. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition.
So ordered.
I want to thank this representative from IAEA for his words. And my only problem with this is, first, I do support the fact of addressing the issue of houses falling into the ocean. But the problem is this bill would expand the climate change adaptation priority guidelines. And for those reasons, a no vote.
Thank you. All right, member. Representative Amado.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With reservations.
So ordered. Thank you. Representative Peruso.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Capella.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to note that erosion is caused by sea level rise, and sea level
Position.
rise is still in strong support, second
Thank you.
time. And sea level rise is caused by our pending climate doom, unless we address climate change.
Thank you. Representative Kong.
I'm sorry. In opposition, second time. I'm not sure if anybody remembers my speech last year, Speaker, but the sea level rise, the rate of sea level rise, still is 1.5 millimeters per year. And it has been that way according to the NOAA for the past 100 years. So any destruction that has occurred with even the last 50 years is still accountable for a sea level rise of 1.5 millimeters. If you want to see what that is, you have to imagine there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 2.5 centimeters in an inch. I didn't want to have to get into this, but here we go again. Any case, because of the facts, I mean, this is not my data, this is the NOAA data specifically addressing sea level rise. If I was to use a different study, anybody can look up these author Niels Axel Morner. He is a leading, he was, I'm sorry, he passed away, geophysicist for Stockholm, but he is a leading authority on sea level rise. So if anyone wants to go back and really take a look at what the facts are, then they can look at that study. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Kong. Representative Capella.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to clarify I am still in opposition.
Thank you. So ordered. All right, members. Moving from SANCOM Report 181 to SANCOM Report 182. Next page. 183. Representative Pierrick.
No, please.
So ordered. 184. Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. 185. Representative Pierrick.
No, please.
So ordered. 186. Next page. 187. 188, 189, 190. Next page. 191, 192. Representative Ward.
I stand in strong support of this bill.
Proceed.
This will feed the homeless. This will take wild game. It'll allow, if properly shot and dressed and approved, to do otherwise what is wasted meat protein to be fed to homeless, not only homeless, but food banks, etc. It's a very good, it's creative, we should have done it before, and I would like comments in the journal, please.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Members, we are moving from STANCOM Report 192 to 193. Representative Lamasau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ruling on a potential conflict. A request for a ruling on a potential conflict.
State your conflict.
I work for a food distribution company that supports local food systems.
No conflict.
Thank you.
Ruling stands is in effect until sin and die. Members, moving from 193 to STANCOM Report 194. Next page. 195. Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support.
So ordered. Proceed.
Brief comment, thank you. For years, there's been an inequity between the DOE and our public charter school teachers and the school systems itself, and so this bill is bringing equity in that direction. So for those reasons, strong support.
Thank you. All right. Moving to 196. 197. Representative Pierrick.
No, please.
So ordered. Representative Souza.
I stand in support, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
This measure will ultimately help my constituents out in Kapolei because that's going to be one of 2 child care centers that this measure is proposing. So I stand in support of my constituents and this great measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support.
Proceed.
And I would like the words of the representative from Kapolei and Makakilo entered in, as if they were my own. Thank you.
So ordered. All right, members. 198. Representative Pierrick.
No, please.
So ordered. Next page. 199. 200. Representative Pierrick.
No, please.
So ordered. Representative Garcia.
Same request.
So ordered. Moving to 201. 202. Next page. 203. Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition?
So ordered. Proceed.
Thank you. I do support the intent of the bill. I think the intent is fantastic, and we all agree that more action to mitigate sexual abuse on children is important. But my only reason for voting no on this is I am a firm believer in the separation of church and state. And some folks don't understand what that means, but what that means is the government shall never tell the church what to do, and vice versa. It keeps it separate to refrain from bad experiences which we've seen throughout history. And this bill is now allowing the government to now step foot into the church and tell them what to do. So for those reasons, a no vote.
Thank you. Representative Pierrick.
I stand in support.
So ordered.
From the perspective of needing to protect children, and that's it.
Representative Ward.
No vote.
Representative Quinlan.
In strong support, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I'm also a very strong believer in the separation of church and state. Now, let me quote from the Bible. No, I'm just kidding.
Representative Souza.
In strong support, Mr. Speaker. You know, there's no reason to perpetuate secrecy in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Mizuno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In strong support.
So ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this bill. I understand about separation of church and state. I wanted to say that just because you're a pastor doesn't mean that you're not.
Representative, go ahead.
Just because you're a pastor, you're human, and you can make mistakes. And just because you're in the clergy, it doesn't give you a free pass. If a child is being sexually assaulted, we need to know that. I mean, it's simple. What would Jesus do? For those reasons, I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker?
Representative Ward.
There's one more piece of information here. That is, if you're a journalist, you don't have to give your sources, generally speaking, because the press is sacred. However, if there is a crime and it's proven that you are a key witness, of course this should apply. But this says mandatory. It doesn't say what stage, at least my understanding of this bill, it doesn't say what stage it's in. So they should be treated at least like journalists, which if it leads to a crime or somebody's injured or somebody's killed or something really harmful happened, if that chronology is in this bill, I'm for it. But if it's not, we're treating clergymen less fairly than we are journalists. And journalists, as you know, really push back heavy when they are forced to testify, because they have a sacred source, almost like a lawyer has a confidentiality agreement with their clients. So I think this may need a little bit more exploration to make it equivalent to what journalists now have in their context. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Mizuno,
Still in support.
proceed.
I appreciate the words from the good representative from Hawaii Kai. However, this talks about a clergy person knowing that there is sexual assault happening. And within reasonable foreseeable future, they need to report that. So time is of the essence. We need to save those kids. So again, I'm a Christian, I support our churches, but in this case, if someone's being sexually assaulted, doesn't matter if you're a pastor or a minister or what, you need to report that. And that's what this bill displays. For those reasons, I still stand in support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Garcia, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still in opposition. The phrase was mentioned, what would Jesus do? Well, he said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and render unto God what is God's. I do once again support the intent of the bill. Safety of children is super important. But once again, the point is never shall government tell the church what to do. That's a basic, fundamental philosophy from the inception of this nation, and that should remain that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Peruso,
Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of this measure.
proceed.
First, I'd like to clarify that there is a relationship between the church and state, and the government does pass laws that the church has to abide by. So that should be clear. And I also would like to state that I would hope, as a former teacher who is a mandatory reporter, that members of the clergy would hold themselves to a higher standard and embrace this opportunity to be mandatory reporters alongside teachers.
Thank you. All right, Representative Souza,
Again, Mr. Speaker, in strong support.
proceed.
Just to echo the sentiments of the previous speaker, and also to note that the moral minimum should be disclosure. And so the law currently exempts clergy. So therefore, separation of church and state doesn't really apply to this argument. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members, I will be calling a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion is carried. Item 7, third reading. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules of the House in order to consider certain House bills for third reading by consent calendar.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion is carried. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, beginning with House Bill number 91, HD1, I move that the House bills listed on page 13 pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussion on HB 91? Representative Tarnas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Briefly, I just wanted to mention that this bill, House Bill 91, and the following one, are two additional bills that your Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs are recommending that we, in support, and I'm speaking in support, yes. Thank you for clarifying that. These two measures are, House Bill 91 and the subsequent one, are two measures that your Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee are recommending to the body to pass on third reading. These are two measures coming from the Campaign Spending Commission to strengthen our campaign spending laws in order to help improve our accountability and hopefully improve trust in our government institutions. For those reasons, I encourage all members to vote in support of this measure and the following one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members, moving to HB 97. All right. Representative Morikawa for the vote.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all majority members vote aye.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, on the measures before us, all minority members vote aye.
Have all the votes been cast? Said House bills passed third reading. Item 8, introduction of resolutions. Mr. Clerk, are there any resolutions for action?
Mr. Speaker, there are no resolutions for action. May all others be referred to print.
So ordered. Item 9, announcements. Members, are there any announcements? Representative Kahaloa,
Mr. Speaker, a quick announcement.
proceed.
Tomorrow is Ag Day here at the Capitol, so please participate on behalf of Chair Gates, myself, Senator Chair Gabbard on the Agriculture Committee, as well as Vice Chair Tim Richards. We have nearly 50 participants representing farmers, ranchers, food producers. So please, on the 4th floor from 11 to 1, please come out and support our agricultural community visiting tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hashimoto,
Speaker, can I do a late introduction, please?
proceed.
Members, we have in the gallery with us members of the Maui Gold Pineapple Company. So please stand and welcome to your House of Representatives, and I'll ask for their names to be inserted into the journal.
So ordered. Representative Capella,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also do a late introduction?
proceed.
In the gallery today, I have a former Miss Kona Coffee sister, who is also our current Miss Philippines Hawaii and will be competing at Miss Hawaii later this year. Kendra Nakamoto, please stand. Accompanying her is my intern, Hema Watson. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Representative Ward,
Speaker, the fellowship luncheon is tomorrow. We have a Fijian as our guest speaker, Atama Vakalalari, and he's also head of the, I guess you would call it the league that is a very rare one, but it's not the football league, but it's one of those that entire a lot of rugby and related stuff that the Fijians and a lot of the British Empire. So tomorrow at room number 4, it's on the 4th floor, we will let you know. And if you can book with Christine in Representative Mizuno's office, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you. All right, members, no further announcement. I have one announcement. If there are, the chair would like to remind members of today's triple referral filing deadline. For any bills moving from their first committees to their second committees in a triple referral, you must file the committee report with the Chief Clerk's office by 6 p.m. this evening. Please allow yourselves and your staff sufficient time to file your reports before the deadline. Motion to adjourn, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion is carried. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.